Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Tustin Longevity Talk to the Doctor. We do this every Monday at 6 o'clock in the evening, where we here at Tustin Longevity Center are trying to create a venue where you can actually talk with the doctor. I'm Dr. Rita Ellithorpe, the founder of Tustin Longevity Center and the Lord. And here you can ask questions and you can see in a general response how we might be able to approach the question from a integrative, functional, complementary, alternative method. There's all kinds of names for what we do. We're standard physicians, but have taken the time to learn the Eastern medicine and natural remedies that are well-founded. So there on to the right, there is a chat so that you're able to type in your question. If you're not on YouTube and you can't log in, you can email us at office@tlcdoctors.com, office@tlcdoctors.com. And there we'll take that request and they'll bring it to me so that I can have it for either Wednesday morning, because we do a half hour on Wednesday mornings, and that's from 9:45 in the morning until 10:15. So we want to begin today. We're getting questions coming in. We want to go through them one by one, but I had a question. I was thinking of giving us a name. We have quite a bit of a following, and so I thought I would like you to write in the comments section what you think we should call ourselves. The TLC, health nuts, or something like that. Some kind of a phrase, so I can say, instead of good evening to you all, I could say good evening TLC health people. So I just make it a little more personal. Okay. We need to start out with a joke today. The joke is, why are ants always healthy? They never get sick. Why are ants, little tiny ants, why are they always healthy? It's because they have little antibodies. They have little antibodies. Anyway, I thought that's funny, a funny way to start it out. The talc family. The talc family, that's cute. All righty. Thanks, Sonia, for that comment. So let's begin today. Debbie starts with a question saying, hi, Dr. Rita, is Alzheimer's dementia hereditary? What is it caused by, and can you avoid it? Thank you kindly for all your good information. Well, there is a genetic form, ApoE4, where you could have all 4 gene sets that are involved in methylation. So it isn't just Alzheimer's, but it's risk for other diseases too. We have to be able to take carbon methyl groups and stick it onto things to calm them down, so to say, and behave. And if we can't do that well, we can have all kinds of problems, cardiovascular disease, and that implies to the circulation of the brain, but also cancers and other medical problems that are chronic medical degenerative diseases. That's another reason why I use Juice Plus. There's very good research published on it, that it has been able to methylate and bring down homocysteine. Homocysteine is typically very high in Alzheimer's patients. The other thing is a very good methylated B complex. There are a lot of cheap B complex out on the counter shelves, but you have to go through an effort to get quality resources, which we do, and not cheap stuff like from China. So methylated B complex is a very wise thing to do as well. I do both. I take Juice Plus and a methyl B complex as well. So is it hereditary? I would say about maybe close to 20% of my patient clinical experience is that I find the methotetrahydrofolate deficiency for methylation in my patient population. So 1 in 5 people. But this has been going on for a long time, and the diseases of Alzheimer's and cardiovascular disease and cancers have only really exploded in the past 50, 75 years. So then we have to ask the question, if this was not happening, and there's all kinds of epidemiological issues with that, was the life expectancy as long, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago? But we are in a much more polluted environment, eating genetically modified foods, not drinking enough water, not exercising enough, staying up too late, playing with our computers and lights on, and a lot of electromagnetic energies, a lot of heavy metal toxicities in the environment, nanoparticulate materials, and most importantly is the excessive starch, carbohydrates, and so forth. So then we have to ask the question, is there really a genetic, what is the percentage of having all four ApoE genes? And that's very rare. That's extremely rare. But I would say it's much more common to have one or two of the ApoE4 genes. And this is really modifiable with lifestyle. So I don't think I would worry about it. What I would do is worry about being on a low-carb diet, getting rid of the white sugar, starchy foods as much as you can, exercise and drink water, and get a good night's sleep. And there are some very good nutraceuticals, like I've mentioned, that you can take. So therefore, in my personal experience, I have had people who were put on Aricept and other prescription medicines for the diagnosis of Alzheimer's. And by changing their diet to a low-carb diet, getting healthy fats, because you have to remember your brain, your cell membranes are 75. We have that little picture there of the cell membrane, the injured one, and then we have the healthy one there. Those injuries are all the free radical damages that we talk about. But that's a double layer of phospholipids. Those lipids have to come from your diet, and we make some of them in our own metabolism. And we have been frightened away for decades from eating fats and saturated fats like egg yolks and so forth. So we need to get back to eating those fats, because that's what your brain membrane is. And remember, all the nerves through your body as well have a sheath around them to insulate them, just like electrician wires have a sheath around them. And this is a myelin sheath that's full of fat, phospholipids. Hence, that's why I developed Doctor's Nutrition Bar, so that I can get a good daily dose of it in my life. It's in eggs, it's in eating meat and fish and chicken with the skin on it, and pork and so forth, some nuts and seeds. And all these things add up together. The degree of damage builds up, creating those hurt spots on the cell membrane. The lack of, the necessary nutrients to repair this. And then on top of that, you have to have a transport. You're noticing with all this trucking and regulations blocking up the trucking now, this bureaucracy has created a problem. Well, equate the lines as of the highways to get the trucking stuff to your tiny capillaries, and the bureaucracy as eating too much sugar, starch, carbohydrates, clogging it all up. And that's why we do EDTA chelation therapy, which on my patients, they have done well. I've had a patient, I recall, noteworthy. He's an owner of a company, and his wife and doctor had met and advised him to put his affairs in order because he had Alzheimer's and could not do his work anymore. And we did all these things here, and it turned around, and he was able to run his company, get off the Aricept, and do very well even to today. And this is many, many years ago. So Debbie, I hope that gives you hope and a better understanding of how important your capillaries are, how important drinking your water is as a transport, how important it is not to gunk it up with carbs, and to do a modest amount of exercise every day, or at least 5 times a week, to get a good night's sleep, and to use some good nutrients and so forth. So not to worry. Okay, Robert. Robert says, how do you interpret C-peptide and fasting insulin on a blood test for ideal ranges, acceptable ranges, pre-diabetes, full type 1 diabetes, full type 2 diabetes? What range is each category? C-peptide is a lab that helps a physician understand whether or not that patient is able to produce enough insulin. If your C-peptide is very low, then it becomes concerning whether or not you'll have to be supplied with exogenous insulin as an injection. Right off the top of my head, I think I recall the range would be anything greater than 0.9 or 0.8 would be sufficient to be associated with having enough of your own insulin to not need exogenous injectable insulin. On the fasting insulin, the range is very screwed up. Most labs say from 0 to as high as 25 is what I've seen. So 0 to 25 is the range I've seen practicing in the last decade or so. This is preposterous. If you wake up in the morning and you have not eaten, and there is floating in your blood anything more than 5 units per deciliter of insulin, you are starting to have hyperinsulinemia, meaning your body is so afraid of what you're going to put into your mouth in the next minutes or hours that it'll be so full of carbs that they better have a lot of insulin ready to try and jam it into the throats of all your cells and force them to eat that sugar, starch, fructose as well. But the range allows doctors who don't have enough biochemistry, physiology, chemistry to understand that anything really above 5 on a fasting level is starting to move toward insulin resistance. So a doctor who sees you at 9 or 11 or 14 or higher, they are not alerting their patient that with a lifestyle change, starting to cut back, turn the steps away from so much bread, sugar, starch, cookie, cracker, cereals, bagels, mashed potatoes, muffins, pancakes, whatever there is. And I didn't have one piece of candy for Halloween. Praise the Lord. And you have to say, when am I going to allow a treat? And you have to try and create borders to define your nation of health, and that is with essentially depending on the person. If you are healthy with an insulin under 5, I like it under 3, but if you're at least 5 or less, if your fasting blood sugar is around 85 or less, if your hemoglobin A1C is close to 5.2 or less, and if your triglycerides are at least under 75, I think you could get away with having a treat if it's a modest serving once or twice a month, easily, at most once a week. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. Dolphin asks, what happens when my family member gets sick from being exposed to an illness after the jab? Well, that's interesting. One of the articles I was reading was from Dr. Malone. He is the inventor of the mRNA technology. That's Dr. Robert Malone, M-A-L-O-N-E, MD, PhD, creating the mRNA vaccine technology. And I'll just jump to one of his quotes here. This is in the Children's Health Defense. He's being interviewed, and he said, Malone said, fully vaccinated individuals can spread COVID. Quote, the idea that you have a workplace where everybody's vaccinated you're not going to have virus spread is totally false, a total lie. And he goes on to say the vaccinated are actually the super spreaders that everyone was told about in the beginning of the pandemic, Malone argued. He went on to say, if you consider the scientific fact that vaccinated people have less symptoms than the unvaccinated, but can still easily spread the disease, consider your fellow vaccinated worker or relative whose unvaccinated son brought the disease home and gave it to him. He might not have any symptoms, but he'll definitely produce the virus. And he's going to say, hey, I can go to work today, but he's going to be spreading the virus like crazy. So it's a concern. And there you have it. So I would just say, what happens when my family member gets sick from being exposed to an illness after the vax jab? So this person is a member who was vaccinated. They could pick it up and not have as much symptoms, apparently, and still spread it. So there's lots of studies going on. This is an unknown, this is an unestablished region. To make absolute statements about mandating requirements, and especially for children, is unbelievable. As a physician of 40 years, I cannot see anything but concern for the well-being of my nation and the world population over this. All right, so let's see. Dolphin, how do I protect myself and my family? Well, with healthy lifestyles. I mean, the Israeli study done about a month and a half ago showed that unvaccinated people had about 27 times the immune protection of the vaccinated. And there's been many studies out there. I think there's been about 81 in the last article I read worldwide. These are peer-reviewed articles. These are not corporate publications. You know, there was something that came out just yesterday, I understand, or over the weekend, from the CDC, the MMWR, I think it's called, their memo report. They did a study, and they're saying everything's safe, but it's not peer reviewed. And if it's not peer reviewed, it's not a study to report on. So it's just maybe you could say the word propaganda. I don't know, corporate interest papers, something like that would better describe the results of the paper, trying to say the immunity of the vaccinated is better. There's a pile of credible scientific independent research negating these statements that have links to pharmaceutical corporations and the government. And so who am I going to believe? People who get, let's see, how about the article on Dr. Chen? Let's see. Yeah, Dr. Chen. Here's another article. Dr. Wilbur H. Chen, he is a professor of medicine at the Center for Vaccine Development and Global Health at the University of Maryland School of Medicine in Baltimore. He's also a member of the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. And these give you the input for, advice to members on the board examining whether they should use a vaccine. And guess what? His income from pharmaceuticals that produce vaccines is being reported, 5 payments that have added up to $437,250.70. So that's from various places: GlaxoSmithKline, Emergent Biosolutions, for Johnson & Johnson and others. So you see, these people are giving us advice, and they're getting money at the same time in addition. Plus, you have to understand universities are getting grants from the government for studies, and this creates a hook around them. And there are lobbying pressures associated with that giving of federal monies that makes them ultimately produce the answers that the lobbyists want, and they have the money to pressure it. And there's enough corrupt scientists, I guess, that will produce the information that you want. I've seen it done myself, and that's why I wouldn't be a part of that academia. So every university of note, Stanford, Harvard, and the like, get federal grant money. This should never have happened. If something's worthy, we can raise the money for it. Keep it independent and local control. Less government, more individual responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. So let's see. That was the follow-up question, I think, to Dolphin. How do I protect myself and my family? Build up your own immune system. Here, I have, thousands of patients with us, 5 doctors here at this clinic. And we have had, to my knowledge, no hospitalizations or deaths in the past 2 years from this COVID-19. We have, for decades, been approaching our patients with prevention as the key cornerstone and the capstone. We have had them all on vitamin D, and we've had them all on a low-carb diet, all drinking water, all exercising, all taking vitamin, enzymes that prevent microclots and immune-building vitamin C drips and so forth. And all of our patients, even the sick and the ones with cancer under chemo, that we're helping their immune systems along with our oncological management from their specialists, we've had no problem. Nothing has changed in practice of medicine at Tustin Longevity Center. Not one thing has changed over the past 2 years. Every day is the same for me, same issues, and I am blessed. I give the Lord thanks for such good outcomes. So what do? You make sure that you're taking maybe something like quercetin, that's in DHIST. Now, we made that, I finally put it all together because so many asked for the question about Immune Protect. And in this, I put vitamin C and zinc and selenium and arabinogalactin, olive leaf extract, astragalus, mushroom extract, maitake extract, N-acetylcysteine, and quercetin, all in a good significant dose. So I would do that. I would take your vitamin D, at least 5,000 international units a day. I think 10,000 international units a day. And with just that and your vitamin D, you should do very, very well. There are other alternatives such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. These are other items among several others that are very helpful at the first sign of viral-like symptoms to take, and that you could use them preventatively. And we have the many doctors of great history of serving their community doing this. So that's what I would do, Dolphin. Next one is Robert. Can type 1 diabetes be reversed? Well, type 1 refers to a insulin-dependent diabetic, and this is usually referring, but not always exclusively, to someone who has had a sudden onset of the diabetes symptomology that is associated then with a autoimmune phenomena attacking their pancreas. You see this in children very often, juvenile onset. So a type 1 implies that there's significant pancreatic injury. But yes, I have had patients who, over the decades, who diligently followed, and I tracked their C-Peptide to see if it would rise with very healthy lifestyles, EDTA chelation. All diabetics need, everyone needs it, but especially diabetics need EDTA chelation for microcirculation, because diabetics get all these cardiovascular and blindness far higher in the percentage in the population. Now, adults who eat the standard American diet that is rife with high fructose corn syrup, starch bread, pasta, bagels, and even eating just healthy sweet potatoes and yams and beets and peas and corn and carrots and squash and pasta and bagels and whole wheat bread and juice their vegetables up. This is so much available excessive carb, starch, fruit, sugar that they make themselves into a insulin-dependent diabetic, but it doesn't imply that they injured their pancreas to the point of not being able to recover it to produce your own insulin. So the answer is yes, it's possible, but it's difficult. Number two, most definitely, if you're a type 2 diabetic on insulin, that's very, very possible and very likely to improve. Susie says, I had COVID early in 2020. Haven't had the vaccine. Job is putting on pressure. Could I do something from your clinic, like an IV or something to help them see I am doing something preventative? No, you really can't, at least not to my knowledge. If you're a patient, your physician can write you a medical exemption. As a person of God and faith, you can have a religious exemption. Mandates are not laws. Once again, guidances are not laws. There is no law requiring this. This is a bait and switch. You have to stand your ground and say, no, there is no law requiring this. And we will, or hopefully your doctor will help stand with you. And maybe you could take your serum antibodies test and show them you have had it. The Israeli study shows it puts you at about nearly a 27-time better immune status. And then that's what I would say. Stand your ground. A mandate is not a law. I heard this expression, what was it, last couple days ago. Let's see, tyranny is when the government knows everything about you, your bank account, your work, your travel, your carbon emissions, everything about you. That's tyranny. And this is freedom, when the people know everything about what their government's doing. So I thought that was a very, very good definition. So we need transparency, and they have not yet told us what's in the vaccine. It is not known what the actual contents of the vaccine is. There are what are called redacted parts of their paper that they published by the for the FDA, and they still won't let us know. So this is what we're dealing with: corporations, corporatocracy. So no, you have to stand your ground and say mandates are not laws, and we will stand with you, and we shall prevail. All right, so let's see, Sonia, TLC family, okay, not the talc family, okay. And Dolphin says you like our jokes, okay, good. Bill says, what is your opinion on statin drugs? They're very low. My opinion on statin drugs are very low. It reflects the lack of biochemistry and physiology chemistry in the education of training of physicians. There are so many critical, necessary, downstream biocomponents that are blocked by blocking the reductase enzymes that stop the production of these things. We are made of fat and protein. To block production of cholesterol when it's required in every single cell of your body, and to blame it on disease is uninformed at the best and harmful at the worst. Is there some anti-inflammatory component of its many downstream impacts? The answer would be yes, but we have so many other wonderful, valuable anti-inflammatories, like how about a lifestyle change? Drink your water. Here is your number one anti-inflammatory. How about reducing the starch, bread, pasta, bagel, carbs in your life? How about exercise? How about a good night's sleep? How about not eating late at night? We were able to rightly expose the corporate cover-up of nicotine and smoking in the tobacco industry finally. And when that happened, we saw how corporations have a pincher hold on government. Because I remember ads on the television where the Surgeon General and doctors would be on the commercial saying, to relax, have a Benson and Hedges or a Marlboro or a Camel. You know, they were saying smoking is a good relief and de-stressor. So you cannot go with just what a government is saying. And by the way, Ancel Keys, who is the father of the idea that saturated fats are the cause of heart disease, like cholesterol in butter and beef that is free range, he was made famous for a false report called the 7 Country Studies. His name is Ancel Keys, A-N-C-E-L, Keys, K-E-Y-E-S. And he was the one promoting and put up in the 1960s and funding from these corporations, created the American Heart and Lung Association, just created the organization as a template, as some puffed up media thing to say, like, we care about people. And they were all backed by the cereal industries and the cheap things that were actually the cause of disease. And when Senator McGowan had that commission on the cause of heart disease in the 1970s, and then later, I think it was 1978, and they came up with a cholesterol heart disease hypothesis, they actually suppressed, just like you're seeing other doctors today being suppressed. Even Robert Malone, who is the inventor of the mRNA technology in vaccinology, he's being suppressed. Dr. McCullough in Texas is being ostracized by Baylor University. You can't get a more laudable person. Dr. Richard Fleming, another major person in the world regarding heart disease and inflammation and cardiovascular disease. He's a cardiologist and he's a lawyer and he's a doctor, and he's being suppressed. So the same thing happened to people who were saying this is foolishness to say what we're composed of, which is 50% fat, is the cause of our heart disease. And the research that Yudkin in his 7 country studies showed was that the more you ate butter and meat, the higher your heart disease was. So he did this on a line, so charting these countries, and as he did it, the higher the consumption of the fat, the higher was the death rate. The only problem with his study is that it was a big fat lie, and there were 22 countries in it, and he cherry-picked out just to create the science you want, brought to you by your local commercial corporate interests. And America has been harmed by this. And I'm angry. So interestingly, talking about commercial interests, I have another article I was reading, and this article is talking about the 17 people on the members of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee, who voted 17-0 in favor of authorizing Pfizer's COVID vaccine for kids aged 5 to 11. And they all have deep ties to big pharma. Now, one of these, and I went through each of these double pages reading the background history of all these laudable PhD, MD, PhDs, and they're all stinking connected for their work and career to grants and monies given to their institution. And these, what you know, are brought to you by your pharmaceuticals in large part. And so the one gentleman is Eric Rubin, MD, PhD. And he's been the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine since 2019. And he's held positions at Harvard, Boston Brigham and Women's Hospital. And listen to what he said, because he was on this board that voted to have children exposed to this experimental emergency youth authorization vaccination. And I quote, let's see, Dr. Rubin says, yes, even while admitting that, quote, there are kids who probably shouldn't be vaccinated, he felt comfortable stating, quote, we're never going to learn about how safe this vaccine is unless we start giving it, and that's just the way it goes. How would you like to sit down to your doctor and say, well, I'm going to give it to you and see how it works, and if it hurts you, that's just the way it goes, and we'll know whether it hurt you or it didn't hurt you. How would you like that? That's your editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine. And you expect me as a doctor to do my homework. To be a physician, you have to love being a student all the years and days and weekends of your life. Yes, you need a personal life. You need some vacation time. But I'm telling you, they have droned down to the point that this is the kind of representation as the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine. Maybe that's why there were retractions in the last 2 years, both of the Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine, regarding falsifications about hydroxychloroquine and false statements, and they had to retract it, about the origin of the Wuhan virus sourcing. They had to retract it. So if you think I am going to listen to them giving me orders, I have to do my own studying. I have to live with myself at night. When I go to bed, I think about, is there anyone in my busy day I missed that I wanted to do a follow-up? I get on my knees before God every day before work saying, help me to be pleasing to you and treat the patients. Now, I'm human, and I've probably had some patients who I was short with and so forth. But you have to understand the gravitas of what I'm facing every day I work in my life. In order to go to sleep at night, I'm studying and studying and studying. I'm a published physician. We here at Tustin Longevity Center, every one of us is published out of this place. And we have another study coming up. So I'm not just seeing patients. I'm doing research. I'm publishing. And I'm lecturing and training other doctors as well, and in chelation therapy. So how did I go off on that rant? It was because she was asking about pressure, and what to do. So there you go. it is a challenge. What was the opinion on statin drugs? That's what it was. So there is a tiny, narrow group that might benefit, and it's basically largely men who have already had their initial heart attack. When you look at people who've never had a heart attack and they're just doing it preemptively, you don't see any reduced mortality. None. Nada. Zip. In fact, you start to see more increases in memory and cancers and things like that. So that's my opinion, Robert, Bill. Yeah, that's my opinion on statins. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Carol, name the group My TLC Healthy Truth Seekers. Okay, that's another good one. So put them down at the end, because the chat goes away from me. I don't know how to draw it up. So put it down in the comments section. Okay. Let's see. Surfliner. Okay, I am 23 years old, male, with cholesterol of 241, triglycerides of 238. Bingo! That's where the problem is. Triglycerides. Bingo! You've got to get your triglycerides down. You are not burning up those simple energy packets of simple fats. The very first tiny little fat made in a human being from eating. Let's say you have pasta and bread and wine, and then you have your cake and eat it too. You have probably consumed so many carbs at that dinner that if we were to check your triglycerides an hour, 4 hours, 12 hours later, you would see them go way up, and then you do it again, so that you never burn them down to a safer 75 or less range. And the foolish ranges that are on the lab say 150 is fine. No, it's not fine. 150 is saying you're eating too many carbs. Clear put like that. So LDL 160, my doctor didn't give advice on what I should eat. I don't eat breakfast. Very good. Lunch, I eat sandwich on white bread and with deli meat. Look at, you're young. You should be able to correct this within a few days. Have you ever fasted? Have you ever gone 24 hours without eating? Are you exercising? Are you eating late at night? Because eating late at night is a recipe for heart disease and cancer and early aging and death. So don't eat late. Cut it, make it 7 o'clock your latest cutoff. Just eat lunches and dinners, and then really try to make sure you're getting all those superficial carbs out of your diet. Soda pops. Most of the carbs are coming in through sweet drinks, even orange juice, apple juice, juicing. You should not be juicing anything. You should be eating it, because juicing makes low glycemic food into higher glycemic foods through the predigestion of these, the blending of it, and it makes the sugars far available. Fight those triglycerides through exercise, fastings, and not eating late, and a lower carb diet. And then talk to your doctor about that. Go to a YouTube series called Dr. Fung, F-U-N-G, Jason Fung. He's a nephrologist, diabetologist. He'll tell you all about triglycerides. If you go to Ivor, I-V-O-R, that's the name, Ivor, I-V-O-R, and the last name is Cumin, C-U-M-M-I-N. And type that into YouTube, and you put in Ivor Cumin, the solution to heart disease. You'll just see this everywhere. So go study those. Let's see. Surfliner says, dinner I have meat, skin, fish, vegetables, and potatoes. See, I would get rid of those potatoes until your triglycerides are low, and then only have them much less frequently. I don't know what foods to eat to lower my numbers. It's not what foods to eat. It's just not eating. Just it's less is what you need to do. Now, there's no problem in becoming a carnivore if you want for a month, and you'll reverse everything for sure. So you could do that too. My dad sees you and my mom sees Dr. Carr. Okay, I tried making an appointment, but I'm moving in January to Seattle. All right, well, see us real quick, and then we'll give you some guidance, or we'll do a good lab and send you off in great health. You know, you do these things now, and when we do labs before you leave, you'll go with a clean heart. There you go. Surfliner goes, front office would not give me an appointment. Please give me some food advice. Also, do you know any doctors in Seattle or surrounding areas? Thank you. I'm surprised they wouldn't give you an appointment. So send an email to office@tlcdoctors.com, office@tlcdoctors.com, and I'll see if I cannot address it to Talon, Talon, that's my son, the manager here, and tell him that I want him to bring that to my attention so that I can see if we can't solve getting an appointment. And so the thing is, you need to eat less food, incorporate some fastings, not eat late at night, don't drink the sugar in the liquid formats, and you should see a turnaround rather abruptly, especially at your young age. And let's see, there is an organization, and I'm a teacher for them, the American College for the Advancement of Medicine. I teach chelation therapy. So ACAM, ACAM.org, ACAM, ACAM.org. These are a list of doctors that are open-minded enough to want to learn about chelation therapy. And that's just like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. It's suppressed. It's an off-label use of an FDA-approved drug, and it has been taken off of its patent, and now they don't want you to hear about it or know about it and how cardiovascular and life-extending it will be for you. So there you go. Let's see, Dolphin says, some doctors are posting the hidden ingredients in the jab, such as graphene oxide, parasites. I have seen and I have heard some of those things, but I want to tell you, there is a scenario in psychology to manage dissent. And what you do is you get scientists to do outrageous statements about parasites and other things that are unproven yet still. And it makes it look so ridiculous, so on the foolish side. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I wouldn't have brought that up to my viewership here because it's just so unsubstantiated. It is something that you can ponder and continue to look for, but that is a pincher movement, and you actually finance and promote these kind of far wild things to make the whole resistance and challenge for transparency, make them look foolish. So until it can be better established, I would move away from it. What I'm referring to is on August 23rd, when they allegedly said the FDA had approved the Pfizer vaccine, and this created all this mandates, and now it's FDA approved. It's not FDA approved. They're doing a bait and switch again. The only thing that was approved is a switch of words. It's the BioNTech Comirnaty from the Pfizer department for Comirnaty vaccine, and it's not available yet. So the only one that's still out there is the current emergency use authorization. And with that statement of the FDA approval for the one that's not even here yet, called BioNTech Comirnaty, in order to get that FDA approval, they have to do now disclosure of everything in the vaccine. And they had to do that within 14 days of August 23rd when they made that statement and it hit the news. Well, it came out. And you know when it came out? The paperwork was redacted. About 22% of it was redacted. So this is the foolishness. This is the foolishness that we're being jerked around with. So no, they have not disclosed it. Now that I can put my arms around because I saw the FDA paper and I saw the redacted parts. Okay, let's see. Janaya, I hope I'm saying your name right. Hello, Dr. E. Hello, back. Thank you for all you do. I emailed you quite a long email, sorry about that, a while back regarding my mom. She's had quite a long 7 years with colon cancer and small bowel. She's been resected quite a bit, I guess surgery. Her last surgery was last August, and they did high-PEC chemo and removed the gallbladder omentum and appendix. She has a lot of stomach noises after eating and has quite a bit of issues with what to eat and can eat. Is there an enzyme you would recommend that she can purchase or any other advice? Well, post-surgically and multiple surgeries and chemotherapy creates a unique situation. So it isn't, we're not able to give specific advice. She has to work close with her doctors, but I would try and find a alternative, complementary, integrative, functional doctor, and you could go to acam.org. And the number one thing she needs is the complete digestive stool analysis done by Doctors Data, and that's in Joliet, Illinois. The comprehensive stool analysis by Doctors Data, and then she needs, out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, she needs the immunofood allergy test. This way we can look at her digestion and the fatty acids, undigested fibers, the predominant bacteria, marginal or bad bacteria, secretory IgA, short chain fatty acids. It's just such a wonderful thing. I don't know why the standard system doesn't do it. Well, maybe they don't care if you get well. They just want you to keep on using medicines. But the complete digestive stool analysis, the immunofood allergy out of Fort Lauderdale, and you need to be seeing high-dose vitamin C and EDTA chelation. And then she most likely has already been given something by the surgeons if they have taken a good deal of the bowel. There are medical foods that the functional doctors can use. These are powders. There are liquid fatty acids. We use physicians, clinicians, oils for the essential linoleic and alpha-linoleic acid. And she probably needs a very good followership for digestive enzymes. Now, easily, I would probably say, orthodigestzyme, if she could swallow a capsule or open it onto her, her food, or mix it in with some unsweetened applesauce. But it's too complex to have specificity at this point. But if you find an integrative doctor who can do some of those tests, high-dose vitamin C, chelation, enzymes, medical foods, and these things, you can do very, very well. So thank you again, and God bless you, she says. Number 62426, amen. So it is 5 more minutes left, and I don't see any newer questions. So remember, try and come up with some fun little name for who we are and why we meet, and share this with your family and friends. You don't have to be a patient here to join us and ask questions. Again, none of this is meant to be medical advice for the individual, but general comments. And we would just then say, the greatest thing God has given you is your own immune system. and your immune system is so amazing. 40 years of practicing medicine, and I have literally seen miracles happen on an unfrequent basis. Unfrequent, I guess I should say, on a rather regular basis is what I should say. When people take charge of what's going into their mouth, just like you wouldn't let pornography or filthy things, statements come into your ears, don't let that come into your mouth and destroy and defile your body. Do the best thing you can each day. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. But I would encourage you with all my heart to be much lower in the carbs in this country. We are tremendously overeating carbs and sugar drinks. We have too much access to food as treats. Now, if I were practicing in missionary medicine, as I did before in Somalia or in Uganda, I would never be saying, watch your carbs. They don't get enough food at all to eat. So you see, we are decadent and we are overeating, and we don't even understand how it's killing us. So with that, I would wish you a good evening. Remember, Wednesday at 9:45. Please check the like button, and please put some clever statement. Think about a name you might like us to call ourselves. And then we'll see you Wednesday, and next week, Monday at 6 p.m. So God bless. Take care.